What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos, mainly covering the NFL, NBA, and a little bit of hockey, NHL, and baseball, especially with the playoffs coming up. But with that being said, all this week we've been covering the NFL, previewing the upcoming games, and we are just 2 hours away from week one, really getting underway where most of the teams, 90% of everyone's favorite teams around the world play. But with that being said, we have 2 games to recap, the NFL opener on Thursday night, and then the Brazil game between the Chiefs Chargers. Already the NFL has been off to a great start, even though we're only 2 games in. And apologies for not doing a recap on Friday. Like I said, I would. Just family stuff happens, and, got to enjoy time too with the fam. But with that being said, I was still locked in, still watching both games, and it was fun. Even though it's going to be hard this season with all, the different memberships you have to get with Peacock, YouTube TV on Friday night, and then Amazon Prime. So all that, and then NFL Sunday Ticket. But with that being said, the Eagles and Cowboys played on Thursday night. The Eagles raised their banner, the defending champions, and they came out against a scrappy Dallas team. And this game was surprisingly entertaining. I placed a little bet on Dallas to cover the 8.5, and that ended up hitting, thankfully. I did pick Philly to win, though, and that's how it happened. And the biggest thing for the Eagles win was the run game, and that's what they took advantage of. No Micah Parsons. Jalen Hurts really had time to scramble, make plays. They were not getting much pressure. I think Dante Fowler Jr. may have had 1 sack, but for the Eagles, they had all the time in the world. One of the best offensive lines up front. Saquon, Jalen Hurts, both. I think Jalen Hurts had 2 rushing touchdowns. Saquon had 1 on his own. Didn't have the best day, yards per game wise, but just 18 carries. Saquon over 60 plus yards, a couple of receptions in the receiving game, so still had like 90 yards, a touchdown. Saquon, once again, I think that's gonna be kind of his load, a little bit less than last year, just to preserve him, keep him healthy, and Jalen Hurts will be able to use his legs. The interesting thing, though, for this Philly offense was the passing game. I have Devontae Smith in fantasy, had only 3 catches for 16 yards. A.J. Brown only had 1 target the whole game, 1 catch for 8 yards. So that was really shocking. They used, more the security blanket with Dallas Goedert, who had over 7 receptions in this one, just kind of their check down guy when they needed some passing yards. But overall, just kind of, a weird game for the Eagles, but they didn't need to really force the pass, and they didn't need to. And that's how they're able to move the ball just really well. Jalen Hurts able to extend plays and just make the right reads when he needed to. Jahan Dotson had a couple catches in there as well. But yeah, so the Eagles' big playmakers didn't show up, they were still on the stat sheet at least. Still, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown take up so much of a team's game plan that when they're just able to run the ball, they're going to continue with what works. But this was a story of the 2 halves. Dallas and Philly were moving the ball. I don't think there was a punt until midway through the third quarter. Dallas came out swinging this one. This Schottenheimer offense. Sorry, apologies. This passing game's gonna be deadly. Dak was, the stat sheet won't pop. 0 touchdown passes. I think like maybe 200 yards, maybe a little around there. So it wasn't the best fantasy day, but Dak Prescott played really well in this one. Made some great scrambles when he needed to when Philly was getting pressure. And just overall was throwing a lot of dimes. CeeDee Lamb had over 100 yards. I have him in fantasy, which is great. But the biggest thing with CD was the drops. There was arguably, especially on the last drive, 2 drops. The one that ended up the game, even though it's a tough catch, he's got to come down with it. He also had like a drop or 2 in the first half. But Jerry Jones, or Brian Schottenheimer, I believe, said he was in there Friday just catching passes on the jug machine. So we know CD will bounce back. It was a mixed day for him. Obviously, 100-plus yards is great. But the drops were a problem in this one for CD Lamb. But still, Dak was able to make the right reads. And then how about Javonte Williams? There's a big question mark. Rico Dowdle really turned it up last year. But, this running game, no Rico Dowdle. Ezekiel Elliott washed. Not on the team anymore. So there was a big question mark what they would do with Javonte Williams starting, who showed some good flash on the Broncos, but injuries kind of derailed him. He looked amazing in this one. He was running hard, had a couple touchdowns, 60-plus yards on like 18 carries. If he can stay healthy, maybe he can have like a J.K. Dobbins a year last year where, close to 1,000 yards, maybe 900 yards, 10 touchdowns. That'd be awesome. Javonte Williams played really well, and it's great, when they get a new opportunity to thrive. This Dallas offensive line, they got some studs like Tyler Smith. But, it's going to be a learning curve for guys like Tyler Booker, Tyler Guyton entering year 2. So if they can just keep that up and just continue to improve, because Dak did make plays with his legs. And if he can keep doing that, this Dallas team can be a lot tougher than people think, because this offense really did well against this Philly defense. And the biggest reason for Philly's maybe lack of success and why Javonte Williams was able to run, Dak Prescott was able to scramble, and they couldn't get home that much was the first play of the game. Jalen Carter spits on Dak Prescott, and there was the viral video. Dak Prescott spits to the ground. Jalen Carter spits in his face. And then, funny enough, a guy on Florida Gators did that yesterday, which caused, I believe, a 15-yard penalty, and their team lost the game. Number 13 ranked Florida end up losing to USF, who also beat number 25 Boise State at the time in week 1. But we'll get into more college recap on Monday as well. But yeah, that was just very interesting. Jalen Carter got some maturing to do. Can't do that. I get you're fired up and he spits at the ground, but maybe spit back at the ground. You can't just spit on him. So shout out Dak, rage baiting Jalen Carter to get him out of the game. Definitely made it a lot easier for Dallas, and why they're able to move the ball for majority of the game. And just the other big question mark for the Eagles defense is they let guys like CJ Gardner-Johnson and Darius Slay go, veterans, in the secondary. And while you still have studs like Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, Adoree Jackson was the third cornerback that we marked heading into this matchup. He did not look great, caused a couple penalties. CeeDee Lamb, I think, had 80 yards on him or something. And they were just able to, attack him. And so the Eagles, either he has to play better or, they have to find someone, because if CeeDee Lamb catches the balls he's supposed to, he probably would have had, I believe, probably like 170 yards off the 110 he already had. So, it's going to be a little bit of an interesting what Philly does moving forward. But overall, Philly, this offense is going to be electric. The running game's still amazing, and the passing game will turn up when it needs to. And for Dallas, I think they're sneaky competitive. This defense fought in the second half, didn't really allow many easy points. And then the turning point of this game was obviously right before the lightning delay, which was annoying. I was trying to keep my eyes awake as we entered the final 2 minutes of this game. Right before the lightning delay, Miles Sanders gets a big run of 50-plus yards. Zach Bond makes the great play to tackle him when he gets to the 10-yard line. Miles Sanders ends up fumbling like 2 plays later, which ultimately probably lost Dallas this game. But shout out Zach Bond, just not giving up. That's why you never, ever give up in the NFL. And these players know that. But that was just overall great to see. And Philly capitalized on that, able to hold on to the win. But overall, just a great NFC slugfest that we were hoping in week 1. And Dallas, I think, maybe has more optimism than not. Kenny Clark, made a couple plays in there. I think got half a sack and was just making some run plays. But overall, still, they missed Micah Parsons dearly. If they had him, maybe they would win this game. But also, same could be said for the Eagles and Jalen Carter. But overall, just a great game to kick off the season. Not much you can ask for. But with that being said, we move into the second game, Brazil, Chiefs, Chargers. I picked the Chiefs. I did not feel great about it, though, entering, as the day winded down and we were ready for kickoff. In the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, despite not having Rashawn Slater, they showed out and they threw the first punch. And KC, similar to last year, just can't get behind the 8 ball. They're able to win all their one-score games. That's not going to be able to continue year in, year out. They lose this one to the Chargers. But the Chargers, kind of controlled most of this game. They went up 10-0 early. Herbert in this Greg Roman offense was amazing. Greg Roman, gave Amari Hampton a good amount of carries, like 15 carries for like 50 yards. A little over 3 yards a carry. Wasn't the best day, but they were able to use the run game, but he trusted Herbert. Herbert was using his legs as a playmaker, making a lot of great throws. And this LA receiving core, we thought maybe they might need another guy, but Ladd McConkey, he had amazing rookie year, 70-plus yards in this one, and was drawing a couple double teams. And then Quinn Johnson, who still had a drop problem last year, but had over 700 yards and like 8 touchdowns. So he can get the ball. And he quietly took a good step last year. And then this last game, to start off his third-year campaign, amazing. A couple touchdowns, 70-plus yards. He was balling. And then Keenan Allen, also a big part, another touchdown. It was just Justin Herbert's security blanket like he was for so many years. Feels right for him to be a Charger. Doesn't really, he never fit in with the Bears. And, it was just always Herbert's go-to guy. So this wide receiver core showed out and was able to make plays on this Chiefs secondary at times. But yeah, it was also Herbert just extending with his legs whenever he was feeling the pressure from Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and just able to escape and either run or throw on the run to guys like Quinn Johnson, and the one that ultimately iced the game that put them up by 2 scores. And then for the Chiefs, Xavier Worthy gets injured the first play. That's going to be a buzzkill. And, Mahomes was still able to make some magic happen after a slow start. He was able to find Hollywood Brown some great plays. That one towards the end of the game that got him the field goal was like 4th down. He's running to the sideline, just throws it across his body. Mahomes played really well and was able to use his legs. I think he led the team in rushing as well with like 50, 60 yards on the ground. He was being physical, trucking the Chargers cornerbacks. So he tried to will his team back into this game. But, the main things are when you lose a weapon like Xavier Worthy and still no Rashid Rice for the first 6 games, you're going to lack in some areas. Kelsey had a nice catch. But overall, you can't get behind the 8 ball. You can't keep playing these one-score games, even though it's going to be like that because the Chargers are a really good team. Joe Alt went to left tackle, played great. Mekhi Becton took a couple penalties, so hopefully he can bounce back. But overall, if Herbert can use his legs to play like this, he's going to silence the haters and win a playoff game this year, including me, because he played amazing. That was arguably the best Justin Herbert game I've seen. And he's had great games statistical-wise, but just the way he was able to use his legs and, get away from this Chiefs defense and use that powerful arm he has. Man, that was a lot of fun to see. But still, this was a great game. Kansas City almost, came back a little bit. They tied it up 13-13. But, the Chargers, Greg Roman, I was very surprised, gave all the confidence in the world to Herbert. I don't think Herbert ever had a 300-plus passing yard game last season, or if he did, it was like 1 or 2 games. He was very efficient, but they really relied on that running game. And, maybe just with the rookie, Najee Harris still a little banged up going into this one. They trusted Herbert, but they should keep doing that. Obviously, stick to the run. That's what Jim Harbaugh likes. But a great win for them, able to pull it out and really set the tone. I had them around 9 wins entering the year just with the Rashawn Slater injury. They could be a 12-win team. They really are truly very physical. That defense still looked very solid. Didn't really take, was the number 1 defense last year. Everyone was expecting a big step back. The secondary held its own. The front 7 was able to get Mahomes, make him a little bit uncomfortable, especially in the first half. But overall, great game. This NFC West is going to be, or AFC West is going to be a tough division, obviously with the emerging guys like the Raiders and all that. And then obviously the Denver Broncos. But with that being said, the last thing we'll do before NFL Sunday is just go back to the games, give a quick preview of who I think will win, and just kind of what I'm most looking forward to in the matchup, because it's NFL Sunday. Gonna have that NFL Sunday ticket going, just trying to predict the games. But with that being said, so I got the Philly over Dallas right, got the Chiefs over Chargers wrong, but shout out LA. The NFC South battle, Tampa Bay, Atlanta. For anyone that has been watching my videos this week, I predict this to be a shootout, but I'm a little bit nervous with Tristan Wirfs being out. I just realized that like yesterday, 2 days ago. But I still trust Baker. I think Emeka Egbuka, Mike Evans will be able to make enough plays to slightly get a win over Atlanta. Cincinnati, Cleveland, I think this will be closer than people think. A little dogfight, but Cincinnati has to win this. They have to start off 1-0. This is a primetime Cleveland's. Most people have them tanking for a top 3 pick. So they should be able to pull this out just with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and that passing offense. Miami versus Indianapolis. This is a little intriguing one. Miami missed the playoffs last year, but with Tua healthy, Tyreek looking to have a bounce back year. Jalen Waddle, Devon A-Chain, I think he's playing. This Miami offense can be explosive. That front 7 is great. But for Indianapolis, this is Daniel Jones's first start. He's got some weapons. Jonathan Taylor, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, hopefully healthier than last season. Josh Downs. So this will be an interesting game in Indianapolis too. I think it's going to be a close one. I think Miami, though, will barely squeak this one out. Carolina, Jacksonville, very intriguing. Carolina, the way they ended last season. Jacksonville, a lot of optimism with Liam Cohen, Travis Hunter making his debut, Ty McMillan for Carolina. This is going to be a great game. I'm really going to be a close eye on this one. 2 young and exciting teams. Trevor Lawrence ready to prove the haters wrong in Duval. This should be a good one. But I'll ride Carolina, just the momentum they ended last season, even though I'm not feeling great about it. That's a 50-50 game to me. Then Raiders, Patriots, an exciting one here. I live in New England, 30 minutes from Foxborough. So Patriots fans are ready for an exciting year. These are arguably 2 of the most improved teams that we see go at it. 2 new head coaches, former head coaches as well, in Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel. But I just trust Vegas, the continuity between Geno and Pete Carroll, Ashton Gianti, Brock Bowers, just some exciting young players. I think they barely squeeze this one out, but I know Drake May, Travion Henderson, I'm really excited to see have him in one of my fantasy leagues. And then Stephon Diggs, obviously, and then just the scrappy Patriots, even Mike Vrabel. It's going to be a good one. Then Arizona, New Orleans, I love Arizona. I have them winning the NFC West. A little bit of a hot take. And New Orleans is taken for a pick. So Arizona, Kyler Murray, have them in fantasy. I'm all in on the Cardinals. So hopefully, if they got to win this one, similar to the Bengals, you guys are off 1-0. New Orleans, a lot of people are projecting them to be one of the worst teams in the league. They still have some. I like Spencer Rattler. They have some exciting players in Olave and Rashid Shaheed, but the Cardinals got to win this. The way that defense ended last season, Marvin Harrison a breakout year too. Fingers crossed. Go Cardinals. Steelers, Jets. I'm riding Pittsburgh. I think Aaron Rodgers gets his revenge in New York. With the former team that Aaron Glenn said we don't want you, and they moved on. I just trust. I trust the Steelers defense a little bit more, even though I'm really excited for the Jets defense. I think they won't be as bad as they were, after the Robert Saleh firing. I think Sauce Gardner makes a statement, but not having DJ Reed, I think will hurt them. And I think the Steelers offense with DK Metcalf and Jalen Warren just make enough plays to win. And then Giants, Commanders, I'm also intrigued. I think the Giants with Russell Wilson, that great front seven, Abdul Carter, can make this a little bit of an uncomfortable game for Jane Daniels, but I got to ride with my MVP pick, Jane Daniels, and the Commanders to squeak this one out with Terry McLaurin back. If he wasn't back, maybe I'd pick the Giants actually, but he is back, so that'll be that. And then next up, we have a lot of division games. San Fran, Seattle. I think this will be a great one. San Fran getting Robert Saleh back, looking to have a bounce back year. But Seattle, my guy, Sam Darnold, as a Vikings fan, even though it didn't end the way we wanted it to, those last two games, I can't put it all on him. He's still one of my favorite stories in the league last year, leading a Vikings team that was expected to win 6 games to 14. Now heads to Seattle, got paid, works with Jackson Smith and Jigba. They have Grace Abel up front. So if that offensive line can protect him at home in his Seattle debut, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, I think they'll be able to just do enough on offense to squeak this one out, though. It should be a good game. Two interesting teams in that Clint Kubiak offense, especially for Darnold, that play action. I think they'll just do enough to squeak by Robert Saleh, Brock Purdy, and the crew. Just mainly because the weapons, no Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings banged up. I think Ricky Pearsall can have a game in George Kittle, but trade away Deebo Samuel. The lack of weapons is a little bit concerning, and the offensive line, just with an aging Trent Williams, who's still great, but still, I think Seattle and Leonard Williams in that front seven, Mike McDonald will do enough to get this one. And then Tennessee, Denver, Cam Ward's number 1 overall pick debut versus Denver. That has high expectations. I think this is my lock of the week. Either that or the Cardinals. 2 locks of the week: Cardinals, Saints in Denver at home in this altitude. It's just not a great way for Cam Ward to start his career. Not that I really think anything will be on him. Just going up against one of the best cornerback in football, the best defensive football. Bo Nix looking to build off his really good rookie campaign, getting more weapons, and that defense got even better. So this will be an exciting one. An NFC North one, Detroit, Green Bay. I'm really locked in on this as a Vikings fan. Just 2 of the top teams in the NFC. Green Bay getting Micah Parsons, Detroit getting Aiden Hutchinson back. How they look with the new coordinators, and that defense more fully healthy just than last year. But then Green Bay, Jordan Love, year 3 as a starter, Matthew Golden. In Green Bay, this will be a good one. I'm really excited. I'll go Green Bay at home to squeak this one out and make a statement that they might be the new Kings of the North. And then Texans, Rams, Matthew Stafford's good to go. And I think just overall, this Houston offensive line is going to be a big question mark. As a Vikings fan, I saw what it's like firsthand when you have some holes on your offensive line, what they can do to you. And, Jared Verse, I think this Rams team, Sean McVay, they're really well coached. I think this Texans defense can keep them in it, but I just don't think they have enough. I think the offensive line is going to be too much of a mismatch, and I think the Rams take this one. Baltimore, Buffalo, they really stacked these week 1 matchups, but I'm going Baltimore. I think they get their revenge from the divisional matchup. I think they should have won it. They just can't turn the ball over like they did last time, and I think Lamar gets his revenge. It makes a statement that the Ravens, with the Chiefs looking the most vulnerable, and they have, that this is the Ravens' year. But it should be a great one in Orchard Park. I think another 50-50 game between 2 MVPs. And then we'll talk more about the Minnesota-Chicago game preview tomorrow, where my Vikings head to Chicago. But obviously, I think the Vikings, 14 wins, they got better. They won't win 14 games again just because you can't win that many one-score games, and J.J. McCarthy will have his rookie slumps. But Caleb Williams is basically entering his rookie year, in my opinion. And the Bears to improve their offensive line. I think that's going to be a great game. The Bears fans are going to be rowdy. I love the Bears fans, even as a Vikings fan. Whenever fans are passionate, that's the best. But with that being said, let me know your final picks. Who's your favorite team, and who are you having go to the Super Bowl? Week 1's here, though, so drop a like and subscribe if you're excited, because we're going to be covering the NFL throughout the whole season. But with that being said, Make sure you enjoy your football. It's going to be a long day for me, 9 to 12 hours of just watching straight football week 1. If you're excited, you should be, because every team besides the Chiefs and Cowboys are still undefeated. So claim your team in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching. Peace.